Penguin Random House Audio presents Cycle Breakers. Free yourself from emotionally immature parents and be the parent you wish you'd had. This is the author, Harriet Shearsmith. Note to listeners: this program includes a downloadable PDF that contains visuals and resources from the book. For my children, it is my greatest honour to be your mum. May you break the cycles I don't, and know you always have a home in my heart. A note from the author. Dear Cycle Breaker, before you jump in, I wanted to let you know a few things. Firstly, you probably grew up hearing phrases like, just wait until you have kids and then you'll understand how hard it is. Or, I hope you have a child just like you as payback. I want you to know that you were never hard to love, nor are you hard to love now, and it is my hope that through the lens of parenthood you will be able to see what a privilege it is to be a parent. That doesn't mean it's easy, especially if you have to contend with generational trauma and you're learning how to love yourself at the same time. Despite the challenges and pitfalls of being a parent, it is the greatest honour to be able to watch your child grow and develop into an adult, to guide them on their path. It's an honour and a privilege, but not something we're entitled to. Which brings me to the second thing I would like you to know. No one is entitled to you just because they are titled to you. Not your time, your space, or your joy. In listening to this book, you're taking a step toward reparenting yourself and becoming the parent you wish you'd had growing up. Someone who could focus on your needs, love you, and respect you as an individual. Despite it all, you're choosing to be better, do better, and challenge yourself. You're choosing to break cycles that span generations. I'm really proud of you. Of us. Introduction. Have you spoken to your mum? It's such a seemingly innocuous question, and yet for me, it had the capability to snatch the breath from my lungs. The answer is simple, and to be expected after everything. No, I haven't spoken to my mum. 3 weeks prior to this conversation, my mum had moved out of the annex we had built for her, and I hadn't spoken to her since. In fact, I hadn't spoken to her in months. Nearly 4 years later, and I still haven't spoken to her. It's incredibly difficult to explain to someone that you have no contact with a parent. Give a little too much information, and everyone is uncomfortable. Give a blunt, we don't speak, and people feel compelled to slip into the uninvited and deeply unqualified role of family counsellor or fixer. Oh, but you only get one, Mum, is spewed at you like you're not keenly aware that you only get one, and the one you got is so toxic that you've had to make the difficult choice to remove them from your life, and in a lot of cases, the lives of your children too. Yes, I know you only get one mum. As a parent myself, the phrase haunts me in a different way. I'm only too aware that the responsibility to be that one mum and do a decent enough job of it that my kids don't grow up to feel the way I do is on my shoulders. Shoulders that feel somewhat ill-equipped. Where is my blueprint for what healthy parenthood should look like? Is it as simple as taking the way my parents parented and just doing the direct opposite? I wish. Every day as a mother, I remember that I am the only one who can break the cycle of generational trauma for my 3 wonderful children. That the fact I would lay my life down for them without thought might not be enough to make me a good parent, but without that having been modelled for me, I have no clue what a good parent looks like. While all of this speeds through my head at a gazillion miles an hour, I'm also trying to reparent myself and heal my childhood trauma while challenging the conditioning I grew up with from my parents and wider society. Talk about pressure, huh? It feels like there are an infinite number of questions you could ask me that would be better than, have you spoken to your mum? And yet, in this particular instance, I was just trying to collect my takeout food. We live in a small town, which means that takeout isn't available at the click of a button just yet. Actual human interaction and occasionally a trip in the car are required to secure the grub. Less hunter, but still very much gatherer. Living in a small town doesn't just pose the collection conundrum. It comes with the added complication that everyone knows everyone, which is exactly why the person who works at the takeout counter I've been visiting weekly for years asked me if I'd spoken to my mum. I'm still unsure exactly how they know each other. I think they worked in the same building at one point, so not close, but friendly enough for the odd chit-chat and for her to become a fierce defender of Mum's right to have a place in my life. We'd also had this conversation the week before, and the week before that. The first week after Mum moved out, the takeout woman, I don't know her name because we don't know each other except for my weekly collections, but let us not allow that to stand in the way of personal questions and unsolicited advice. Asked me how Mum was, and I said, I haven't actually seen her for a while, but I hope she's well. In hindsight, I should have said fine. I was immediately met with, what? What do you mean you haven't seen her? Oh no, that's really shocked me. You were so close. Haven't you spoken on the phone? Can't you just call her? It's nearly Christmas. It was my first real interaction post-estrangement with someone who knew my mum, and by proxy knew me, but didn't know that I'd cut her out of my life. I made some blustering excuse, hastily paid for the takeout, and left. I'll admit, my Friday night takeout is often the highlight of my week. A little pat on the back for surviving the mayhem. So when I didn't bustle through the door with a big smile, the children and my husband could sense that something had upset me. Are you okay, Mummy? Shit. Another question that can scatter me. Sounds silly, doesn't it? After all, I want my kids to display empathy, but I don't want them to be responsible for my emotions. I want them to see that sadness and worry are normal, but I don't want to transfer my worries and fears, my pain, onto them. That's not very cycle-breaking of me, is it? Growing up, I felt I was my mother's stand-in spouse and therapist, while also frequently being reminded that I was not her friend and she was the grown-up. So, which was it again? All these grown-up emotions. I remember sitting at the table while she talked about that day's court proceedings during my parents' divorce, or hearing about my dad's affairs and how they affected her. But I was not a friend or equal, just a child, her child. Now, when my children seek to comfort me, no matter how minorly, I'm launched back to those times when I was in that role as a child. Add to that the challenge that my children had a relationship with my mother up until they were 5, 7, and 9 years old, so the estrangement was fresh for them too. I was still very much trapped in a toxic cycle with my mum when I had my first child at the age of 21. And I would go so far as to say that having them was the beginning of the end, as it so often is for most cycle breakers. Even if that end doesn't mean an estrangement, but a low-contact relationship, or one with firm boundaries. I started to recognize that there was no way I would ever behave toward them the way my mother did toward me, and her behavior only became more difficult to cope with as I developed my own family and my own identity. It took me just...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?